designed to deter invasions, so to try to hold back aggression long enough so that it can move to diplomacy. That's their military doctrine. They say if they're developing nuclear weapons, it would be as a deterrent against military attack. So what's the threat exactly, this huge threat that we have to face? Well, it turns out it's a political threat, the usual kind. The threat is that Iran is what's called destabilizing its neighbors. How is it destabilizing them? By trying to increase its influence. It's trying to increase its influence in the countries that are its neighbors. And that's aggression because we own those countries. When we invade them, that's not destabilization. That's imposing, bringing about stability. Just read the reports. We're working to bring about stability in the countries surrounding Iran, and they're destabilizing them by trying to extend their political influence. So they're a real threat. They're also, the other threat is supporting terror. What is terror? Terror is Hezbollah and Hamas. Well, you know, whatever you think about Hezbollah and Hamas, it's pretty hard to call what they're doing terror. Hezbollah is a Lebanese organization. It's now being charged with developing, obtaining weaponry to enable it to deter an Israeli invasion, US-backed Israeli invasion, the kind Obama loves, as he told us on his website. That's terror. Hamas is trying to protect. Hamas took power in Gaza in an election. They were freely elected. It's the only free election in the Arab world, and they happened to win it. And as soon as they won the election, the U.S. and Israel immediately, you know, within days, stepped up and attacked on the Palestinian population to punish them for voting the wrong way in a free election. And that was the first act of terror. The next major act of terror was, that was January 2006, was in June 2007, when they took power in Gaza, eliminating Fatah, you know, the Palestinian Authority forces. That's the way it's described. But if you look closely, that's not exactly what happened. What happened is that the U.S. and Israel, with the help of the Palestinian Authority, tried to carry out a military coup to overthrow the elected government. And they beat back the military coup. And that's when they took power. That's when the siege really stepped up. That's a U.S.-Israeli siege, of course. Well, you know, they're not, I mean, I don't like them, frankly, and they do a lot of brutal and ugly things, but it's pretty hard to call that Iranian terror. You know. But that's the threat of Iran, supporting terror and destabilization. Well, you know, if you own the world, that's natural. So in South Vietnam, we faced internal aggression, assault from within. And in the case you mentioned, when Israel, with U.S. support and U.S. equipment, attacks a boat in international waters, killing people, a major crime, it's the fault of the people on the boat. You know, they're the ones carrying out the terrorism, Turkey in this case. And it's a tricky case, as you mentioned, because Turkey is a major ally. And how they're going to finesse this is not very clear. You know, it's I mean, from Israel's point of view, apart from the criminality, it's sheer insanity. I mean, Turkey is their only regional ally and a close ally. It's been the second closest ally after the United States since the 1950s. And they use Eastern Turkey for military exercises. There's military bases there. They're a major military supplier to Turkey, and there are plenty of relations in the other direction too. And to alienate their one ally by a criminal act like this is profound irrationality, and one of many extremely irrational acts that they're carrying out in the last couple of years, which is pretty ominous because it's a powerful state, and when it's overcome by paranoia and irrationality and hysteria, there could be real dangers.
I wanted to ask a question about a totally different area, which is on the environment.
The environment.
Because of not only the oil that is leaking from the British Petroleum explosion, but the methane that is being released, and methane is the worst heat-trapping gas that there is. Do you think that people are going to start to wake up to how fragile our planet is, and that we can't sustain wars? In Pakistan last week, they had the highest temperatures they've ever had, 128 degrees, you know. So do you think this is there'll be something good coming out of it?
Last year, as you probably read, was the warmest year on record. What's going on in the Gulf is horrible enough, but it's worth noting a real racist element in our concern about that. I mean, it's a fraction of what's happened in the Niger Delta, for example, where there are huge oil spills going on all the time, causing enormous damage, killing all sorts of people. But, you know, that's Black Africa, so who cares? I mean, it's not as serious as the oil spills in the Amazon by Texaco now, Chevron. So it's bad enough, but that's what we do all over the place and nobody pays any attention. This time it's us, so it becomes a big issue. Yeah, it's bad, and today Obama announced more oil drilling. It's going to renew oil drilling. So the methane is no joke. You're quite right. As the permafrost melts in Siberia and other places, the predictions are it's going to release a huge amount of trapped methane, which you're correct is much more dangerous than carbon dioxide. And a lot of other, you know, I mean, these are kind of what are called nonlinear events. You know, that you can have a sudden spurt after things continue slowly in a certain direction. Will anything be done about it? Well, I mean, we're facing the question of species survival in this case. It's kind of like nuclear weapons. But unfortunately, there are institutional factors that make it very hard to do anything. I mean, it's not that there are sort of bad people in control. The people who are making the decisions are trapped by institutional structures. So, for example, the major power center in the country, unquestionably, is the corporate sector. But if you're the CEO of a corporation, you don't have a lot of choices. You have to act so as to increase short-term profit, or else you're out. If you don't do that, first of all, it's required by Anglo-American law. So if you don't do it, it's illegal. But even apart from that, if you don't do it, you're kicked out, and somebody comes in who does do it. That's the nature of the system, you know, the semi-competitive system. Now, major corporations and business associations like the Chamber of Commerce and so on, American Petroleum Institute, they've been carrying out large-scale campaigns in the last couple of years to try to convince the public that global warming is a liberal hoax. Okay, and it's succeeding. By now, the proportion of the public who believes in anthropogenic global warming, you know, human contributions to global warming, is barely over a third. It's declined sharply. So the propaganda campaigns have been succeeding. Well, you know, the CEOs who are carrying out those campaigns understand as well as you do that this is no liberal hoax, that it's going to destroy what they own and destroy the lives for their grandchildren. They know that as human beings, but in their